The warning unheeded. The Grand Council chamber of the galactic hegemony gleamed with polished obsidian and pulsing quantum lights. Representatives from 17 conquered systems sat in tiered seats that spiraled upward toward a domed ceiling displaying real-time battle statistics from across the known universe. At the chamber's heart stood a massive holographic projection of the Milky Way, with one small blue-green planet highlighted and rotating slowly. Commander Vexlar Kvoth limped into the chamber, his exoskeleton support system whirring with each labored step. Once towering and formidable among the Zethkari warriors, his frame now bore the scars of 100 battles. Chitinous plating fused with metallic replacements, one optical receptor permanently dimmed to a dull amber glow. He was the last surviving commander from the Terran reconnaissance campaign, a mission that had cost the hegemony 3 battle cruisers and over 7,000 elite soldiers. The Council recognizes Commander Kvoth, announced High Imperator Dizal, his voice carrying an edge of impatience. You requested this audience to discuss our planned campaign against the human homeworld. Speak quickly. Vexlar's mandibles clicked as he steadied himself. Esteemed Council, I come before you not to discuss strategy, but to warn you of grave error. The planned invasion of Earth must not proceed. A ripple of murmurs and clicking sounds echoed through the chamber. You overstep, Commander, said Admiral Vrex of the Palladian Fleet, her bioluminescent tendrils flaring with irritation. The decision has been made. The primitives of Sol 3 have rejected our terms of surrender. Their technology is barely interstellar. Their defenses are minimal. Vexlar's damaged respiratory system wheezed as he fought to control this frustration. That is precisely what we thought 5 cycles ago, when I led the reconnaissance force to their colony world on Proxima Centauri. He gestured to his broken body. This is what 17 humans did to my battalion of 300. I am the only survivor. The holographic display shifted, showing footage from Vexlar's memory banks, flashes of combat, explosions, and the swift, unpredictable movements of human soldiers wielding improvised weapons alongside military-grade armaments. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered, Vexlar continued. They do not retreat when outgunned. They do not surrender when defeat is certain. They adapt to our tactics faster than our battle computers can generate new ones. Grand Strategist Quillara, her crystalline form refracting light across the chamber, gestured dismissively. Your failure was an anomaly, Commander. Our intelligence indicates humans are fragile organisms with brief lifespans. Their weapons are chemically propelled projectiles and crude energy beams. They have no psychic abilities, no natural armor. It is not their biology that makes them dangerous, Vexlar insisted, his voice growing stronger with urgency. It is their minds, their thinking. Humans have a concept they call creativity. It allows them to conceive solutions that have no logical basis, that follow no established doctrine. Primitive superstition, scoffed War Minister Tilak, his reptilian scales shifting from green to red with amusement. All species believe themselves special until they face the hegemony's might. Vexlar activated another recording from his memory banks. The Council watched as 3 human soldiers, cornered in a mining facility, rigged environmental systems to create a localized pressure explosion that decimated a squad of Zethkari elites. They call it thinking outside the box, Vexlar explained. When our forces surrounded their outpost with standard containment protocols, they tunneled beneath us. When we deployed sonic disruptors designed to incapacitate their nervous systems, they modified their communication devices to counteract the frequencies within minutes. When we cut off their supply lines, they cannibalized our own fallen technology to sustain themselves. High Imperator Dizal raised a clawed hand for silence. Commander, your concern is noted, but the decision stands. Our fleet carries 10 million warriors. Our ships number in the thousands. Earth's defenses, according to our latest intelligence, consist of primitive orbital platforms and a scattered planetary defense force. The conquest will proceed. Vexlar's damaged optical receptor flared briefly. Humans have a saying, Imperator. Necessity is the mother of invention. If you attack their homeworld, you will not face the scattered resistance we encountered on their colony. You will force them to invent ways to destroy you that we cannot predict. You give these creatures too much credit, snarled Fleet Commander Zixnar, a massive being whose chitinous exoskeleton bore ceremonial markings of 100 conquered worlds. I have reviewed your mission recordings. Your force was unprepared and under-equipped. We will not make the same errors. Vexillar looked around the chamber, seeing only dismissal and contempt in the eyes and sensory appendages of the council members. They could not understand what they had not experienced. How could he make them comprehend the cold terror he had felt watching humans laugh as they charged into certain death, or the horrifying moment when he realized they were learning hegemony battle protocols faster than his troops could execute them? "There is one more thing you should know," Vexillar said, his voice lowering. "The humans have a concept they call spite. When defeated, most species calculate the benefits of surrender. Humans calculate how to make victory as costly as possible for their enemy, even at the expense of their own survival." The council chamber grew quiet. For a brief moment, Vexillar thought he might have finally reached them. Then War Minister Talak laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Superstitious nonsense. The primitives will kneel before the hegemony like all others. The attack proceeds as planned," announced High Imperator Dizal with finality. "Commander Kavoth, you are relieved of duty. Your service is acknowledged, but your judgment has been compromised by your defeat." The massive deployment screens around the chamber activated, showing the hegemony's invasion fleet organizing into attack formations. Thousands of warships, planet crackers, and troop carriers prepared for the assault on Earth. The machinery of war was already in motion, and nothing would stop it now. As Vexillar was escorted from the chamber, he looked back at the holographic display of Earth, that seemingly insignificant blue-green sphere. In his damaged neural processor, he replayed the memory of a human soldier he had confronted on Proxima, a female with dark skin and fierce eyes who had smiled at him, even as she was dying. "You don't understand what you're starting," she had told him as her life ebbed away. "Earth won't fall. Humans don't know how to lose. We've spent our entire history fighting each other. Imagine what we'll do to you." Vexillar shuddered as the council chamber doors closed behind him. They would learn soon enough. The hegemony's primary command vessel, the inevitable Dominion, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system with a fleet of over 3,000 warships trailing in perfect formation behind it. Supreme Commander Zixnar stood on the bridge, his massive form dominating the command platform as tactical displays lit up around him. "Status report," he demanded, mandibles clicking with anticipation. "All ships reporting combat readiness, Supreme Commander," responded his executive officer. "Human detection systems have identified our presence. Their planetary defense forces are mobilizing." Zixnar made a dismissive gesture. "As expected. Begin the approach. Deploy scout vessels to assess their orbital defenses." On the tactical display, the hegemony fleet moved with precision toward the inner solar system. Smaller scout ships broke formation, accelerating ahead to probe Earth's defenses. "Supreme Commander," called a sensor officer, "we're detecting unusual activity in the debris field of their fourth planet." "Elaborate," ordered Zixnar. "There appear to be structures concealed among the asteroids. Our initial scans indicated nothing but mining outposts, but energy signatures are spiking across the field." Before Zixnar could respond, the tactical display flickered. 3 scout vessels vanished from the grid. "What happened?" demanded Zixnar. "Unknown, Commander," replied the tactical officer, his sensory appendages twitching with confusion. The scouts were functioning normally, then simply ceased transmission. A cold sensation crawled along Zixnar's spine plates. This was not how primitives were supposed to behave. They should be scrambling their pitiful defenses around their homeworld, not staging ambushes in the outer system. "All vessels, increase alert status," ordered Zixnar. Deploy combat drones to investigate the loss of the scouts. As the command was relayed, the communications officer suddenly straightened. Supreme Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. Display it, ordered Zixnar, his massive body tensing. A holographic projection appeared above the command platform. A human male in what appeared to be a military uniform stood with hands clasped behind his back. His face bore the marks of age, but his posture suggested strength and confidence. Hegemony forces, the human began, speaking in perfect galactic standard. This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Your presence in our system constitutes an act of war. We have studied your previous encounters with our colonies and are fully prepared for your tactics. I offer you this single opportunity to withdraw. Laughter erupted across the command bridge. Zixnar himself chittered with amusement. Respond as follows, he ordered. Primitive species Earth humans, your extinction is imminent. Surrender your world to the hegemony or be eradicated. The human admiral's expression remained unchanged. Very well. Remember that you chose this. The transmission ended. Continue the advance, ordered Zixnar. Prepare the first wave of planet crackers. As the fleet moved deeper into the solar system, past the orbit of Mars, sensors began detecting anomalies throughout the region. Small, fast-moving objects appeared briefly on scanners before disappearing again. Supreme Commander, called the sensor officer urgently. We're detecting thousands of small objects approaching from multiple vectors. Identification, demanded Zixnar. Unknown. Too small to be combat vessels. Possibly debris ore. The officer never finished his assessment. Across the fleet, explosions began to blossom as the small objects made contact with hegemony ships. The tactical display became a chaos of warning indicators. There's some form of self-guided explosive device, reported the tactical officer. Primitive but effective. They're targeting our sensor arrays and propulsion systems. Zixnar's mandibles clicked in agitation. Deploy defensive screens. Launch fighter squadrons to intercept. But the damage was already mounting. The humans had studied hegemony ship designs and targeted their vulnerabilities with precision. What the explosives lacked in raw power, they made up for in numbers and placement. And this was only the beginning. The Empire's reckoning. Breach in sectors 7 through 9. The tactical officer's voice cracked with strain as holographic displays flashed red across the command center of the inevitable Dominion. Human boarding parties have penetrated 3 dreadnoughts and 7 cruisers. Supreme Commander Zixnar's massive frame trembled with rage rather than fear. 2 days into what should have been a routine conquest, the hegemony fleet was in disarray. The humans had not behaved according to any known combat doctrine. Instead of concentrating their forces around their homeworld, they had scattered throughout their system, using asteroids, moons, and even the rings of the gas giants as staging grounds for hit-and-run attacks. How are primitives boarding our vessels through active shields? Zixnar demanded, his claws digging into the metallic surface of the command console. They've adapted their transport technology, Commander, the science officer reported, sensory appendages twitching nervously. They're using localized electromagnetic pulses to create momentary fluctuations in our shield harmonics, then launching boarding pods through the gaps. Impossible, hissed Zixnar. Our shield technology is beyond their understanding. A new voice spoke from the entrance to the command center. I warned you. Zixnar turned to see Commander Vexlar Kivov standing in the doorway, his damaged exoskeleton wearing as he stepped forward. Despite being relieved of duty, he had remained aboard the flagship as a technical advisor, a role a High Imperator had granted out of respect for his long service. You were not summoned, Kivov, growled Zixnar. Yet here I stand, replied Vexlar, watching the mightiest fleet in the galaxy falter against creatures you dismissed as primitives. He gestured to the tactical display. They've studied us, learned our weaknesses. Every ship you lose provides them with more information, more technology to turn against us. We've lost barely 50 vessels, countered Zixnar. Our force remains overwhelming. Vexlar's damaged optical receptor flared. And yet you haven't reached their homeworld. Your planet crackers remain unfired. The invasion force sits idle while the humans bleed you from 1,000 cuts. Before Zixnar could respond, the tactical display shifted again. A massive energy signature appeared from Earth's moon, previously thought to house nothing but primitive research outposts. "New contact," shouted the sensor officer, energy readings off the scale. A brilliant beam of light lanced out from the lunar surface, striking a hegemony dreadnought. The massive vessel, capable of reducing continents to ash, simply disintegrated. "What was that?" demanded Zixnar, genuine fear coloring his voice for the first time. "Unknown weapon," replied the tactical officer. "Appears to be some form of particle beam, but the energy density is beyond our theoretical models." Vexlar stepped closer to the display. "They built it," he said quietly. "Using what they learned from our previous encounters, they built a weapon specifically to counter our technology." "All vessels, evasive maneuvers," ordered Zixnar. "Target that lunar installation and destroy it." But the lunar cannon was not alone. As the hegemony fleet adjusted its formation, new energy signatures appeared across the Sol system, on Mars, on several asteroids, even on some of Earth's orbital platforms. "Multiple weapons platforms activating," reported the tactical officer, his voice hollow with disbelief. They're targeting our flagship." Zixnar stared at the display in shock. "How? How could they have built such weapons?" "Our intelligence indicated." "Your intelligence was wrong," interrupted Vexlar. "Humans don't develop technology linearly like other species. They make tremendous leaps when threatened." He pointed to the display. "They've had years since your first probes entered their system. Years to prepare, to build, to plan." "The hegemony cannot be defeated by primitives," roared Zixnar, but his confidence was crumbling. Multiple beams lanced through space, converging on hegemony capital ships. Vessels that had conquered dozens of worlds vanished in blinding flashes. The perfect formation of the invasion fleet disintegrated as ships attempted to evade the unexpected onslaught. "Commander," called the communications officer, "we're receiving thousands of transmissions from within our own fleet." "From whom?" demanded Zixnar. "From humans, sir. They appear to be broadcasting from inside our vessels." The main view screen activated, showing dozens of simultaneous feeds from throughout the fleet. Human soldiers in powered armor had breached not just a few ships but hundreds. They moved with practiced precision, disabling critical systems and eliminating resistance with ruthless efficiency. "How many boarding parties?" whispered Zixnar. "Unknown," replied the tactical officer. "Communications are being jammed across the fleet. We've lost contact with 40% of our vessels." Vexlar's damaged respiratory system wheezed as he laughed without humor. "They're not just boarding parties, Zixnar. They're capture teams. They want your ships, your technology. Everything you brought to destroy them, they will repurpose to strengthen themselves." As if to confirm his words, several hegemony destroyers suddenly turned their weapons on their own fleet. Their identifying signatures changed on the tactical display from hegemony designations to human control. "Impossible," breathed Zixnar. "Our ship security systems were designed by beings who think logically," finished Vexlar. "Humans don't. They improvise. They imagine solutions where none should exist." The bridge rocked as something impacted the inevitable Dominion's shields. Warning klaxons blared as internal security alerts activated throughout the massive flagship. "Boarding craft detected in multiple sectors," reported the security officer. "Internal defenses are responding, but the humans are using unorthodox tactics." "Elaborate," demanded Zixnar. "There, sir, they appear to be using our own fallen warriors against us. They've taken control of damaged exoskeletons and are using them as shields and weapons platforms." Horror rippled through the command center. The desecration of fallen warriors was unthinkable in hegemony culture. "Send the abort code to all captured vessels," ordered Zixnar. Initiate self-destruct protocols. Self-destruct systems are not responding, reported the tactical officer. The humans have somehow isolated the command networks. Another impact rocked the flagship. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the tactical displays went dark. "We must retreat," said Vexillar quietly. "While we still can." Zixnar's massive frame seemed to deflate. In just 2 days, the mightiest invasion force ever assembled by the hegemony had been reduced to chaos, not through superior numbers or technology, but through adaptability and unpredictable tactics. "Send the retreat signal," he ordered, his voice hollow with defeat. "All vessels to fall back to rallying point Omega." As the command was relayed, the communications officer straightened again. "Sir, incoming transmission." It's the human admiral again." Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main display. Unlike before, he was now wearing battle armor, and the background showed he was on the bridge of a hegemony vessel. "Supreme Commander Zixnar," the human said calmly, "your forces are in disarray. Your technology is being assimilated into our defense network. I offer you terms. Leave our system immediately and carry this message to your hegemony. Earth is off limits. Any future incursion will be met with total war." Zixnar stared at the human in disbelief. "You dare dictate terms to the hegemony? We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "And yet here you are," replied Chen, "running from your first defeat. Make no mistake, Commander, if you return, we will not be fighting a defensive war. We will take the fight to your worlds." His expression hardened. "Humans don't forget, and we don't forgive easily. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Throughout the fleet, those ships still under hegemony control began calculating emergency jumps to hyperspace. The mighty invasion force, reduced by nearly a third, fled the Sol system in disarray, not as conquerors but as survivors. 3 lunar cycles later, Vexillar Kivov stood once more before the Grand Council chamber. The room was emptier now. Several council members had been aboard vessels lost in the disastrous Earth campaign. Those who remained looked shaken, their once absolute confidence replaced by a new emotion rare in hegemony culture: fear. High Imperator Dizal, one of the survivors, addressed the assembly. "The Terran exclusion zone is hereby established. No hegemony vessels will enter the Sol system or any of its claimed territories. All intelligence on humans is to be classified at the highest level." Vexillar stepped forward, his damaged form somehow more imposing now that his warnings had been vindicated. "It will not be enough," he said simply. "Explain," demanded Dizal. "The humans now possess our technology. They have captured our ships, our weapons. But more dangerously, they have learned that they are not alone in the universe, and that there are those who would destroy them." Vexillar's damaged optical receptor glowed dimly. "They will not wait for us to return. They are preparing even now." "For what?" asked a council member, dread in her voice. "For war," replied Vexillar. "Not just defense, but expansion. Conquest. It is their nature. When threatened, they do not merely survive. They ensure such a threat can never arise again." The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The hegemony, for the first time in its long history, faced an enemy it could not simply overwhelm with superior numbers and technology. "What do you suggest?" asked Dizal finally. Vexillar's mandibles clicked slowly. "Prepare, adapt, or do what no hegemony leader has done before. Extend the hand of peace while you still can. Because next time, the humans will not be fighting for survival on their homeworld. They will be coming for yours." As Vexillar turned to leave the chamber, he felt no satisfaction in being proven right. He had seen the future in the eyes of that dying human soldier years ago, a galaxy forever changed by humanity's entry onto the cosmic stage. The age of the hegemony was ending. The age of humanity was just beginning. And the stars themselves would tremble.